Okay, so I want to test recording this scene. Okay, so I started learning Unreal 5 maybe 3 days ago, 2 days ago. Um, I spent a day watching videos and just trying to familiarize myself with the interface. And then I spent another day trying to learn how to set up my materials for the scene and light and do various things. So, you could see a bunch of materials that I've been working on. There are lots of things that are not perfect, and I learned a lot making this. Um, I definitely want to improve my lighting and just have more control over everything. Um, you could see that I got the transparency working on on the plants so that the leaves are being displayed properly. This glass is not perfect. This is supposed to be glass with water in it, and you could see there's like wood reflection coming from here. Um, there's some. Okay, so this is obviously real-time rendering. So what I'm seeing here is basically like the final render, and it doesn't take any time to render, so it's instantaneous. It's pretty amazing. Um, so yeah, I one of the things that I was struggling with was UVing and getting the textures to display, and just learning all these how to compile um, materials. Okay, so if I go to show sprites, lighting, then you could see these lights that I have here. Okay, so then I can select one. This is a point light. If I move it from here, you could see it's lighting the environment. And then when I move it to here, you can see it's creating a shadow. It's creating a shadow right here, so it's lighting right here. Okay, and you could see the reflection of it in the chrome. So the same thing is over here, and then something similar is here. I'm just using point lights. So if I move the point light, then it it looks like you're looking directly at a light bulb. Um, and it is creating a circle of light here. Um, the light controls are right here. So it says 80 CD. If I turn that to 20, then it'll turn down the light. Turn it back to 80, and then the source radius controls the softness of the shadows. So if I put it to 0, you can see that this circle is very hard shadow, and then if I put it to 5, then it gets soft. And if I put it to 2, then you can see it's a little bit harder. So that's interesting control. And so another thing that I've been learning about, trying to learn this engine, I don't know if this is gonna get picked up by the recording. I guess I will find out watching this recording. If I move the camera, I kind of see trails. Kind of see that light, kind of like making a trail, which is pretty interesting. Um, I don't know if what the like. I haven't really played with the render settings, so I might be doing everything wrong right now, which is okay because you have to do wrong things to learn the right things. One of the things that was bothering me was I was just trying to get the details to display on the walls, and if I zoom in, if I could try to find an example, if I zoom in really close, like to this corner right here, you could see that this corner there's like a little bit of stretching, and I think that that is just because I had the geometry, um, like I had a line that was just too close, so the UVs overlapped maybe or something like that. Okay, so yeah, you could see a little bit of stretching like along a line right here. So I was trying to get rid of that, and I will eventually figure it out. And then like for UVing, um, I could take more time to UV properly. Uh, which UVing is how you display texture onto a 3D surface. And so this door is okay if you look at it like from this angle because the wood grain is traveling from the wood grain is traveling vertically, and you can see the wood grain here is traveling horizontally, which is what I wanted. And then the wood grain here on this baseboard is being shown correctly, but then on this one it's not. So you could see that the wood grain is flowing correctly here, but then right under it it's not. So that is there's a fix there, and that is UVing. And then so it just takes a bit of time to fix that. And then you might be asking, why is light appearing behind these pictures? Why is it looking like it's being lit? And I'm trying to figure that out. So one of the things is if something if something is totally white, if something has a white texture, then it will glow when when sunlight hits it. So this was happening with the pillow before, and then I switched the texture so that the whitest white of the texture was became slightly gray. So basically, when texturing in this engine, you don't want any texture or any part of the texture to be fully white because that will make the light blow out if it hits it. Okay, so see that light is getting blown out, and then I could fix it by just moving the light back in. Moved it too far, and then the shadow went away. There's a bunch of different lights in this engine, and so far I've only really started learning about point light, directional light, and turning an object into emissive. So the ceiling lights are actually creating light. I do not have full control over them yet, but I'm figuring it out. There's a model here that is a light bulb in each light fixture, and I have applied an emissive material to those. Okay, so why is there light being created from these paintings? I'm trying to figure that out. It might be because they're reflective surfaces and they're close together, and there's something about um, it's trying to light this room realistically, and so it's trying to bounce light around. So what I will do is I'll show the sunlight. Okay, so when if you create an architecture scene in Unreal, it creates this little gizmo thingy, and if okay, so you see the sun sky completely just changed from being sunlight to a totally different time of day. And if I go into the room now there's no light being produced by the sun. There's no light really coming in through the windows. These lights are just from the point lights, and so that's cool. Okay, so there's this whole thing over here that I haven't even started touching, and that's where a lot of the work is done. So I have the sun sky selected, and then open this a little bit, and if I select the directional light right here, and then I select rotation, now I can now rotate the sun. Okay, so now it blows out the okay. One thing is that I have auto exposure on, which actually helps for rendering. It might not help for like an actual game because um, you might get undesired results. But basically, if I look at the sun, it changes my exposure. And then if I come into the room, it changes again. So let's see. Okay, so see how the light is shifting? That is the auto exposure. So if I go into the room, it's totally dark. Okay, so if I go into the room, it's totally dark for a second, and then it fades to being able to see. That's the auto exposure kicking in. And then if I go over here, it's totally bright, and then it changes so that I could see the sky again. Okay, so um, that's the auto exposure. And if I rotate the sun, which is the directional light, it changes the time of day. So that's pretty cool. So right now, if I do it like this, then that's like noon, right? Noon, the sun is right above your head. And then as I increase this, it becomes the afternoon. And then the sun is slowly going down, and then now it's fading into the sunset, right? And it's creating a totally different color, like orange yellow. Light is filling the room, and you could see the sunlight right here, and you could see it on the bed, see it through the window. Um, so yeah, that is pretty crazy lighting control right there. For an interior in a game engine where there's no real fake lighting. It's all being attempted to be lit with legitimate 3D lights. So I could show you all the other lights, but I haven't really messed with them yet. Um, this is what the bed looks like when there's no direct sunlight hitting it. And so I suppose I should show a bit about materials. Okay, so I when I import an FBX, which is this entire scene is just one FBX with all the materials on it. I can select that FBX scene bedroom 7, and then here's the different layers of the different models. So I could move stuff that's moving the wall. That's all the plants. Okay, so then if I could shift these all around. If I go to down here, then I see all the materials on that layer, right? So I want to show if I double click a material, it opens the material editor, good old nodes. And this is a leaf, and there is a normal map for this leaf. An alpha map is creating the um, cutting out the leaf. It's creating the transparency channel, and this, for example, if I select the main node, you can see that blend mode is turned on to masked, and that's what I need for plants. And then shading model is two-sided foliage, and then I checked off two-sided. So that plant is over here. It's not the best example because it doesn't look great. But yeah. So those are the settings that I have on these plants. Uh, Turning it into masked. So okay, so if I select this thing and then switch blend mode to opaque, then the opacity mask goes away. That option goes away. And then switching it back to masked, now it's active again, and you can plug in an alpha. And if your alpha is on your main texture image, then you could plug it in through that main texture image. There's a little A right there. So if you've worked with nodes or Unreal Engine in the past, this will be very familiar to you. And it's great to have, being able to plug in all your different types of maps. And then I'll show I'm still getting familiar with the engine. Okay, so I will show a slightly more complex material that I've created. I'm just trying to start with the basics here. Okay, so this is a wood material, and I wanted to just figure out how to just put in 3 different maps, right? Starting really simple. So here's a color map. Go into the base color, and then here's the roughness map going to the roughness, and the normal map going to the normal map. Um, so the roughness is being fed into a multiply, and then um, that's a constant. So if I right click, I can search, or I can go to constant. So just I want constant one vector. So search, show that how that works. Constant. Okay, so one vector, and then it creates this thing, and it just creates a value. And you want the numbers to be over here in parameters. So let's see, if I delete this, okay, this is at 13. Okay, so if I delete this, okay, so right now on this material there's two parameters, metallic and rough. So if I delete this rough, delete, now if I go to parameters, okay, rough is still there. Interesting. Okay, but if I delete that connection, then rough goes away. Okay, so now it only has metallic. Okay, so then I have this this little constant that I just created before its value was 13. So I'll just type that in, and then I will feed that constant into this multiply, and then select this. Looking at the parameters, okay, so I want roughness to be a parameter, and it's not. So okay, so here's what I do. Here's why it's not working. I need to press convert to parameter and then write rough. And now it's working. Okay, so basically, if it's not converted to parameter, then it's not going to show up here. So you can create a bunch of parameters and then adjust them on the fly. See your material here. It has the color, the roughness, and the normal map. And this constant controls the amount of roughness. So if I go to the parameters over here and say 0.5, or if I say like 0.9, then it changes the metallic. That might actually be better. It's showing color much more. So I'm just getting started learning this, so I'm learning about how to build materials right now. If I change roughness to 0.2, then it gets super shiny, okay? And then if I change it to 10, that's a bit more what I want. And then 15, less shiny. Still seeing lots of details. Let's see it at 30. Okay, so 30 is like super flat and gets rid of a lot. And then 15, so now you get shiny again. Okay, so if I exit this, that was the bed frame shader. So I think that was the same shader as this. That's the closet shader, that's the baseboard shader. So I was just trying to figure out a bunch of different wood, and all the wood that I'm making is pretty much the same. So on the floor, I really like the results here. Um, you could kind of see like shine hitting it in an interesting way, and yeah, the floor is really important. And then like if I go out here, select my sunlight again, and then select the directional light and then move it. You can see the sun coming back into the room and see how the sunlight reacts with the ground, which is basically when the sunlight hits it, it completely blows out, which is kind of interesting. I will learn how to make that more realistic. And then to control the intensity of the sunlight, you can bring down this number. And it actually starts way higher than this. So if I bring it up to 7, then it's going to be much brighter sunlight. And I don't necessarily want that because I don't want to be blinded looking at light sources. And, obviously now the bloom is completely blown out and I can't see anything if I look at the window. So now let's try way less bright. Okay, so now the window is not blown out. And if I look at the texture, I can see a little bit more texture here. And if I look at the window, I can see the sky instead of just seeing sunlight. Okay. I want to show you Lightwave now, where all these files are coming from. Okay, so this is Lightwave. This is what I am using to model NUV and build the scene. Okay, so it's not going to look pretty here because there's no lighting, there's nothing going on in real time. I'm just, this is just what I use to model, okay? And so I just wanted to show the scene in Lightwave. I have some things over here that I delete. Okay, so there's layers, layers at the top. Let me shift this a little bit. Okay, so let's see what the layers are. The first layer is like wood stuff. So it's just wood. Second layer is the floor and the walls. And I want to show you why I'm having one of those errors. Okay, so one of the display errors is happening because these lines are too close together. So I kind of learned my lesson there, and so next room that I make, I will space out lines better and kind of be bringing it into Unreal as I make it. So you could see the polygons and the flow of how I made these walls, and you could see if you look from the outside, you could see in. That means that's because of the way that the normals are facing. So if I select this area and flip the normals, now you can't see inside. So the normal is the direction that a face is going. So I could select that again and flip the normals. And I want to show you UVs. So here's a layer with, the window frame, plants, some desk stuff. This layer has all the glass on it. Okay, so if I select the wall. So now I have just the wall selected. I'm going to show you the UVs. Okay, so here's the UVs, and here is pretty clean UVs. All like everything, there's nothing overlapping, and it's all kind of squared off. And for people that have never heard of UVs before or seen them before, the my basic explanation is UVs are how a 2D texture is displayed on a 3D surface. So this desk, for example, has the wood grain traveling like in a certain direction, so you could see that clearly. And then if I go to the UVs and rotate them, so if I rotate them like this, clockwise, then it shifts the texture. So now the texture is traveling up and down, right? And then if I do it again, then it flips the texture again. Okay? So UVs are how we're displaying textures onto surfaces. And I know that lots of these are not being displayed correctly. So, for example, I would want the wood grain to be kind of going in the other direction here on all these pieces. So, for example, to fix that, I can select all of them and then go back to the UVs and then just rotate them once. And then already that gets way better. The grain is starting to travel along the piece of wood. It's much better. So to compare that to what it was before, if I switch it, now the the wood grain is kind of following around the like rings, and I do not think I want that. I think it looks better the other way. So anyway, that's Lightwave and UVs, and basically you can bring in as many objects as you want to the engine until you have no more texture space and memory, and so you could just load the engine up with stuff. Okay, so this is the last part of the video. I want to show how to start a project in Unreal. Very important. So when you open Unreal for the first time, you get all these options: simulation, automotive product design and manufacturing, architecture, film, video, live events, and games. So I want to start with architecture, and I want to start with ArchViz. There's a lot that you can do here with everything. I'll make it a random name. Okay, so create. So you can see up here it says preparing shaders, and there's like a countdown. And as that number goes down, this scene is being shaded. So when you start your first architecture scene, this is what happens. It creates this scene, and this scene is built to teach a lot. So you can learn from these materials and the shadows and the shader. Materials are shaders. So you can learn from this ocean shader that is amazing. So this is great. See a camera. But anyway, we don't want that. So what we want is file, new level, and then interior, create. So now this creates, down here it says preparing shaders. So now it creates this little hanger area and this little lighting gizmo and all these little things with materials on them. So these are all materials that we can learn from. There's a bunch of materials that is created with this scene. So here's concrete, here's brushed metal, here's chrome, and you can see everything is reflecting off of each other real time the way that it should. This red ball is reflecting off of this. Here's two different types of glass. And then here's an emissive material that you could use for lights. And behind that is a big square that is producing light. So if I move this around, you could see the reflection on the ground changing. Okay? So this is the scene that is created if you select interior. And it's nice to learn from. It just shows you the basics. So here's a rectangular light, and you can see that is lighting the scene. Okay, so now what I want to do is up here I will select all of these walls and delete them. And then I'll select all the beams and the roof and delete them. And then, okay, so that building is now gone. All that's left is this floor area. I'm going to delete that. Okay, so now I can go into import into level. And it says you can import an FBX or an OBJ. Great. Okay, so I'm going to, I just selected my room FBX, and then importing, I'm going to just select building, and then I'm going to say create content folder hierarchy, and that will create a folder for my bedroom. Now it's importing all the different layers, and that scene is 1.5 million polygons. So right now it's loading 1.5 million polygons and a bunch of textures because it creates materials for each material. Okay, so you load it in and then it shows you like the model editor. So I'm just gonna get rid of that. And then it gives a bunch of fun, maybe errors, I don't know. I'm too new. So I'm just gonna clear that because I don't care. And now, yay, we're in Toy Story. We're in a massive room, the size of an ant, which is awesome. Exactly what I want. Okay, so now I can select the room and select all these objects in the room, and then I'm going to scale everything to 1. And now it's going from 100 to 1. So now the room is the size that I want it. So now I'm just going to show a couple things. I want to show how to get the light in, how to get the walls working, how to place a light, and how to create two materials. Okay, so we can move these things around any way we want, and we can move this gizmo around for the lighting. So I'm going to move that to where it was before in my other scene to be kind of like outside the window. Okay, so if I go into the room right now, it's black, and that is perfect. That's what I want. That means that the walls are creating shadow and darkness properly. And the windows are currently not working. They're not glass. So no light is able to get into the room, which is amazing. So what do we do? What do we do from here? So going into the different models, I find my glass, and that is not the right glass. So I click. That's not what I want. Okay, so I click. Here's the glass. Here's the material, and then there's a little drop down here where I can change the my original glass to a better glass. And then if I click that, it brings this up, and it lets me search assets. So I'm just going to type in glass, and then I can use one of these other glasses. So I just selected another glass that was already pre-made for me. So now if I go inside, you see that now there's glass. I'm now looking through those windows. But there's no light coming through, which is okay. Um, One thing is, you see a grid on the floor, and we don't want to see that grid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all the objects for the room. I'm going to turn grid snapping off, and then I'm just going to move the room slightly up so that we don't see the grid anymore. Okay. Okay, so now we want sunlight going into the room, right? So I'm going to select the lighting thing, and then I'm going to select directional light, and then I'm going to go to intensity and bring it down. So I'm going to change this 7 to a 4, so that makes it less intense. And then I'm going to rotate it like I did in the other scene. And okay, so I'm rotating it now, and this horrible things are happening now. The room is not being lit properly. There should only be shadows coming through the window, and instead there's just absolute chaos going on with the lighting, and so that's horrible. So to fix that, we're gonna go and find my wall material. I need to learn how to name the layers better. Okay, so here's my wall material, and I'm going to double click this material. Okay, so now it brings this up, and all right. So let me minimize that. Okay, so now I'm gonna go back to this folder that I have a bunch of normal maps. So I'm in the wall material, right? And I'm just gonna do some material stuff. Okay, so I haven't figured out like the simplest way to bring in new textures. So what I do is I open the content drawer is like the new content manager for this. So I open that, and then I plaster one normal's mid. That is what I want for the details map. And if I bring that into the content browser thing, it says it's imported as a normal map, and then I say okay, and then I bring it up again, and there it is. So now I have a normal map for my walls, which is not necessarily needed, but I wanted to show that. Wow. I hear a woodpecker outside of my window. I'm gonna have to deal with that. Um, I love woodpeckers, but when they're looking for termites, you gotta deal with them. Okay, so roughness, I'm gonna right click that, promote to parameter, and then metallic, right click that, pr- promote to parameter. Okay, so you see our material, it's not looking as it should. And then we have these two parameters. So let's put that to 0.3, see what that looks like. Put the roughness to 0.7, see what that looks like. Um, Whatever, that's good enough. Okay, so I added this normal map, and then I just added roughness and metallic to parameters to make it a physically based material. And now I exit, say save, and then that material is now applied. That means that uh, my camera's moving too fast, so I'm going to change the camera speed to 1. Okay, so now it's super slow. So now if I go up to the wall, I can see the details, so I know that my normal map is working. But the lighting for the scene is still not working. And if I go outside the room, then I can see inside the room. And we do not want that. So what I'm going to do is go back to the wall material and then check on two-sided. Okay? And then exit, save. Okay, so now it's two-sided. I can no longer see into the room. And if I go into the room, now my light is working. So the reason that the lighting wasn't working was because two-sided was not turned on. So basically, the walls being two-sided is important. And now I can light my scene and build all the materials and continue adding lights. Okay, so um, let me turn my camera speed to 2. Okay, so let me add a light. Um, so this little quickly add to the projects button, and then lights, and then point light will create a light over here, a little light bulb. And then we want to move that over to where it needs to be. Put that in here. And then it's creating a shadow. And then turn the intensity up to 30. And then turn the source radius to 3. Blur the shadow a little bit. So now that light is now functional. But the material is not being displayed properly on it. So let's find that in our materials. So I'm looking for the light material. So this should be it. No, that's where I should apply the emissive. So it's probably going to be metal. This is one of the things that I will figure out how to label these so that I can uh, find what I need better. So I'm looking for a material that says metal. Okay, so here it is. Should be it. Yep. Okay, so now if I select this, I'm gonna um, simple chrome. Okay, so if I select that, it changes the light to simple chrome. That's pretty cool. It's reflecting in an interesting way. It's reflecting the windows. And okay, so now let's see. Let's say I want to create the lights actually creating light. Okay, so where is that? Okay, ceiling. Okay, so light matte, and then here I will just type in M E M I for emissive, and then select one of these, and then now, bam, the light fixtures are now creating light and actually lighting the scene. Okay, so the last thing that I want to show is trying to think of how I want to show this. Okay, so I'll show this fixing this plant. Okay, the water isn't being displayed properly there. Okay, so okay, so where's my layer with the plants? I have one layer with all my plants on it. Okay. Let's see. Is it this one? Yes. Okay, so what are the settings that we want to get this working? I want to switch from opaque to masked, and then take an alpha from this A to opacity mask. See if that works. And then I want to switch it to two-sided, and I want to switch it shading model to two-sided foliage. Okay? So let's see if that works. So um, I switched blend mode to masked, shading model to two-sided foliage, and I checked off two-sided, and then I plugged in the alpha into opacity mask from the texture. Okay? So now I'm going to exit, save, and it didn't work. Did I do the wrong plant? Yep, I did the wrong plant. So this is the plant that I actually fixed just now. And you can see that it is fixed. I can see the underside of the leaves, and the transparency is working, which means that I no longer see blackness around the leaf, so it's like properly cut out and looks pretty cool. Okay, that's all I'm going to show for today.